Alright guys, so I wanted to make a video today about turtles, and I've done lots of care videos about turtles and information you should know if you're going to have a turtle, so check those out. I have some videos called like Before You Buy a Turtle, Watch This. This is very similar, but it's different in many ways. I just want to talk about, again, things you should know before buying a turtle, but in a little bit different way. So I have my Asian Reeves here, and this guy's great. I've had him for about 4 or 5 years, probably about 5 years. And things I wanted to talk about, I'm just going to be talking about the things off the top of my head from my experience in owning turtles for many years. There's lots of things I see in turtle owners, and lots of people impulse buy pets. I talk about this in other videos. Never impulse buy a pet. Never go to a pet store and just say, oh, that looks cute, I want to buy it today, and buy it. Turtles have very specific needs, and they're not necessarily hard to care for, but they require a lot more things than people think. Starting off, tank size. Very big problem. Lots of people buy turtles and they think they don't need that big of a tank, and they think, oh, you know, they get like a 10 or 20 gallon tank and they think that's going to be fine. Turtles need a big tank. This guy doesn't look that big, right? He's only about 3.5, 4 inches long. He needs at least a 40 gallon tank currently, and if he gets bigger, he needs more. The general rule for a single turtle is how many inches their shell length is, which is about 3.5 to 4 inches on him. They need about 10 gallons a tank. So if he's a 4-inch turtle, he needs a 40 gallon tank. And that's for a single turtle. So let's say you have 2 or 3 of these guys. You couldn't put 2 or 3 of these in a 40 gallon tank. You'd want to increase it. Now you don't have to increase it by 10 gallons, you know, for every turtle. So let's say if you had 2 of these, one of them needs a 40 gallon tank, 2 of them wouldn't need an 80 gallon tank necessarily, but I'd say go about half for the second turtle. So if you got one, a 40 gallon tank, if you got 2, say 20 more gallons, so about a 60 gallon tank for 2. So they need a large tank, and along with a large tank, they're pretty dirty animals. I mean, they eat a lot, they use the bathroom a lot in their tank. You're going to want very, very good filtration. Lots of people have dirty looking turtle tanks, really mucky water, and basically you're going to want at least double the filtration. I use underwater filters made by Fluval. They're called the Fluval U4. That's the one I currently use a couple of on their tank. They work great, but you can use pretty much any type of filter. You know, do some researching and find a good one, or 2. I use 2 myself just because with my tank that I have them in, I just have 2 about 50 gallon filters, so I got about 100 gallons of filtration on their tank. That's about half the size of that. So always get about double the filtration you need for turtles, because they are very dirty turtles. And if you have 2 filters, it's great too, because I have other videos as well talking about the biological cycle of water. I think they call it the nitrite or ammonia cycle. And basically, if you have 2 filters, you can change out one filter pad or one filter's filter pads and change the other one a couple weeks later. Never change them at the same time, because good bacteria grows in those filter pads, which actually helps clean the water. Not in terms of mechanical filtration where it's, clogging up with the nasty particles in the water, but good bacteria grows on there, which actually cleans the water at a microscopic bacterial and chemical level. So always have double filtration. Another thing about these guys, you need UVB lighting. Some people think, oh, I've had plenty of comments, hundreds probably, people saying, I don't have UVB. And my turtle's fine. Well, how long have you had your turtle? A couple of years or less? Yeah, your turtle might live without UVB for a short time, but overall it's going to very drastically reduce their lifespan. They need proper UVB lightings, and their UVB light should be changed every 6 to 12 months. I usually do mine about every 9 months. Some people say 6 months, some people say once a year. Every 9 months is safe. Even if the light is giving off light, the UVB spectrum that it gives off goes bad or weakens over time. So even if you have a good UVB light, you're going to want to replace it even if it's still giving off light. Every 9 months is a safe time. You could do it earlier. I'd say don't go past 9 months. Some people wait a year. I usually do mine about every 9 months. Some people do it say to do it every 6 months. Hello, May. So they need UVB lighting. Another huge thing I see that people don't always have correctly, in fact this is probably one of the main things other than UVB light or small tank, which I just talked about, probably one of the top 3 things, they need 100% dry basking area. Some people don't offer this. You know those floating docks that the pet stores sell? Those things, yeah, they're okay if you have other dry areas, you know, just as an extra dock, let's say. But singly, alone, they're not good. Those floating docks, when the turtle gets on them, they go down a little bit and they never get 100% dry. If they don't get 100% dry, turtles need to be able to get out and get 100% dry. You'll see them sitting up on rocks or wherever you have a dry area, and they'll kind of put their arms out and they'll like lay there in the sun, basking in the sun, basking turtles, hence the name. They need to be able to get 100% dry, and they'll do this basically daily, and they'll go up there and just chill out in the sunlight, in the UVB light and the heat light you should have, which I'll talk about next. And they need to get 100% dry though, because otherwise fungus, bacteria, and stuff can grow in them. Every once in a while they need to fully dry off. So you need to get a dock that is 100% dry. Don't just get one floating dock that they can't get out of water. It's not good for them. These guys can live, I mean, it depends on the species, but some turtles live, most of them, or almost all that I can think of, live 30 plus years, and a good amount of them live 50, 60 plus years. So I mean, this is not a pet that you are going to have for a short time. Some parents might buy them for their kids when they're, let's say, 10 years old. Well, that turtle is going to live until that kid's anywhere between 40 and 100 years old. You know, I mean, the turtle can live a long time if cared for correctly. So they're not a great beginner pet, really. Lots of people buy them as beginner pets, and they're sold pretty cheap in pet stores. But really, you have to really commit to owning one. They're going to live a long time. They're going to be a very long pet for you to own, decades and decades. So don't do it as an impulse. They require, like I said, a lot of equipment. They don't really require all that much care. Once you have the proper setup, it's pretty easy. Put your lights on timers, you know, feed them. You know, feeding them is pretty much all you have to do. Feed them and change the filters. It's about all you have to do once you have the proper setup, as well as change the UVB light like I talked about. Now there are different types of UVB lights. Some give off heat, some don't. I recommend the mercury vapor lights. I believe that's what they're made out of. Those lights are great. They give off heat and UVB. So you only need one light that provides the sunlight and the UVB light for the whole tank. If you go along with that route, then that's the only light you need. You can leave it off at night. Just like in nature, these guys have a warm basking area during the day, but at night it gets cooler and there's no sun. So you mimic nature in captivity, and you don't need a light on at night. Some people will sometimes leave a night, like a red light on at night. You don't really have to. As long as your water temperature is correct and everything, they do not need a light at night. Make sure to research your species and get the water temperature right. Some don't need heaters, some do. My current turtles I don't use a heater for. Their water stays at a proper temperature for them. But some species you might want to put a small heater in the tank to keep the proper temperature. So give a UVB light that gives off heat, which is the recommended one because not only does it give off the heat, so it's one bulb instead of two, but they also give off more UVB. Those types of lights are just better in terms of UVB. There are different UVB lights, like compact fluorescent lights and the spiral fluorescent lights and such, and even long tube fluorescent lights, which give off UVB. And if you use one of those, that's fine. It'll work. But then you're going to also need a heat light, because those don't give off much or any heat, really. So basically you're going to need to research the temperature in the basking area that your turtle needs. Put a thermometer there, test it out, and it's very simple. If it's too hot, raise your light up a little bit. If it's too cool, if you could lower your light, lower it, or get a higher wattage. And get their basking area to the proper temperature. So really, these guys are very simple to care for, but they are expensive initially to set up. Ongoing expenses aren't that bad. Basically, once you have the tank, you paid for the filters, paid for the light fixtures, you paid for the, you know, all the stuff inside the tank, the 100% dry basking area and all that. Once you've got all that set up, they're really not that bad. You have to buy a new light if you go with the one light setup every 9 months. And the lights are usually around, currently, 25 to 35 bucks. So, you know, 25 to 35 bucks once every 9 months isn't that much. And then you got to buy filter pads, which you replace depending on the load on the filter and depending what filter you have. You could Some filters you might change every 3 weeks, some you might be able to let go for a month and a half or so. It just depends on the filter you're using. I find mine I have to switch out the filter pads about every month and a half. They last a pretty good time in the ones I have. So really the ongoing costs are pretty much just filter pads and lights once you have it set up correctly. But like I said, the reason I'm making this video is because I see tons of people doing it wrong. Now, another thing about UVB, before I get to my next topic, UVB does not go through glass. Some people think, oh, I can put my turtle tank near a window, or I could take my turtle outside, I've heard, for like an hour a day. For one, an hour a day is not enough. These guys need UVB constantly all day, whether they're in or out of the water. But let's go back to the glass point. You can't put them by a window and expect them to get the proper UVB. Windows, glass, although light comes through, UVB gets blocked out almost completely. Tiny, tiny bits get through, but nothing substantial, nothing enough. So you put these guys by a window and think, oh, he's getting UVB from the sun. It's not. It doesn't work. That's just not how it happens. Another thing, also make sure you have a screen top on the cage. A glass top on the cage is basically cutting out all the UVB. Plus it's getting really humid in there if you got a closed off glass top. Don't really want that either. So always go with a screen top. And then I guess the last thing I'll talk about here before we end this video is Salmonella. Turtles can very, very, very often cause Salmonella. Be very careful. If you're a parent, you buy it for your kids or whatever. Like I said, you know, be very sure you want to do that if you do that. But if you're a kid or if you're an adult even, be very careful with turtles. It's human instinct to touch your face. It just kind of happens randomly. You don't even know you're doing it. You might touch your nose, you might touch your eyes, you might wipe your mouth or something. Very, very important that you don't do that when you're handling your turtle. After you put your turtle back in the cage, wash your hands, and then you're pretty much safe. But these guys can very often carry Salmonella. And if you're touching them like I am now, I probably have Salmonella all over my hands, most likely. So if I was to touch my eyes, my nose, my mouth, even my ear, any place that an infection could get into, it could be very likely that I would get Salmonella. And Salmonella is like, basically it affects you almost like food poisoning. You'll be throwing up for 10 hours, maybe 12, and in extreme cases it could do a lot worse to you. Many younger, teen to mid-30s people will fight it off on their own, and basically it'll be like food poisoning. Like I said, you'll throw up for a good long time. It's pretty nasty though. It's not a good thing to get, and like I said, you might have to go to the hospital. It could be worse. So be very careful when you handle your turtles. When you put them back in the tank, wash your hands, and when you have them out, make sure not to touch your face at all. Just don't touch your face. Make sure not to. If you want to show your pets to your friends, make sure that you inform them of this first. You don't want your friends getting sick. So, just wanted to talk about that. My turtle here has kind of just been hiding in his shell the whole time. I don't take him out too much, and he's not reacting with like scared fighting. He's kind of reacting with I'm just going to chill out in my shell, just kind of hiding in here. So anyways guys, if you have any questions about turtles, let me know. And I hope these important facts help out some new owners, people that might be thinking about getting a turtle. Again, they're great pets. They just require more than what most people think before researching. So make sure to research any pet you buy, whether it's a turtle, a lizard, a cat, a ferret, whatever it is. Make sure to research them extensively and know what you're getting into and decide if it's something that you want to commit to. So anyways guys, we'll see you soon. Happy pet keeping. Say bye-bye, May. No, you're not. I'm not going to touch you either because I don't know if you can get Salmonella. So we'll see you guys later. I'm going to go put my turtle back and wash my hands. And again, happy pet keeping.